We are live. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself. Now you will see here, this is a rare collaboration. The stars have aligned. We have Lady G, who's always the camera's opposite. So Lady G is here, and then we have the esteemed Andre from Astrology Alert also on the show. So tonight we're bringing you something very special, guys. It's going to be a combination of current events, topical events. We'll also be doing some tarot, and of course with Linda's psychic skills. And of course, Andre is a tropical Western astrologer, which most of you are more familiar with. And of course, I'm a neo-Vedic astrologer. So we're going to be giving our interpretations from our various disciplines and swapping notes. Yes, so this is really going to be something sensational. It's really quite unusual. I think it's the first collaboration of its kind. So Linda, if you'd like to say a few words, and Andre, if you'd like to say a few words as well, just how you feel about the temperature of what is going on right now. Linda, ladies first. Linda first.
Oh, thanks for calling me a lady. I just want to really send my prayers and everything to Florida. It did end up, there's some destruction, but it didn't end up being, even though it landed as a 4, it didn't end up as bad as I had seen that it was bad, but not going to be as bad as other ones that are coming, not necessarily in Florida. So, but God bless everybody. It's just tough. I was born in Georgia, so Georgia's really going through a bit of a spell right now.
Yeah, indeed, with the weather and stuff like that. And Andre, you're obviously very politically versed. I've seen you collaborate many times with Linda, and I've seen your channel as well. How do you feel in terms, maybe from a Western astrology perspective, of how things are panning out as we go forward?
You're referring to the US or to...
Yeah, the US, but maybe other things you may have seen as well.
I mean, my focus is mostly US, just because, you know, we're inundated with news around the clock. I mean, in a strange sort of way, this horrible event in Florida is taking some of the attention away from the, you know, this constant drumbeat of indictments and of daily happenings in the Trump world. So the temperature is pretty high. It really is. You know, in this country, it's a dicey period. It really is. It's dicey. And when it comes to events like Florida, there are those who will say, well, you know, there are always hurricanes there. And then there are many who say, yeah, and climate change has accelerated these types of events and made them worse. And so a lot of people are angry about that as well, for good reason, because things have gotten worse. And I respect that. Like Linda said, I feel really sad about it, and I hope that as few people as possible suffer, you know, because it looks pretty rough. At least it did.
Yeah, pretty soon you won't be able to get insurance in Florida for any sort of hurricane. Not at all.
Yeah.
It's like us out here with fires. They haven't canceled me, but they pretty much canceled most of California. You can't get fire insurance.
Wow. I heard that this was the thing, and particularly developing in Florida as well. And actually, Hurricane what's it, Idalia, I was going to have that and maybe as the second feature, but as we've started there, let's start there now. So of course, in the context, and of course thoughts and prayers to everyone as well. And we understand that we are in this kind of climate crisis, global warming and stuff like that. And one of the things from what I understand, looking at it, was basically cast as a tropical storm. And then, as you know, there's been this super heat, hasn't there, in the Gulf of Mexico. And what they say is when hurricanes form and when they cross over hot water, they say it's like rocket fuel for the storm. That's why it went from tropical storm and zoomed up to a Cat 3/4 when it hit land. And I actually, I can't remember which video it was, but I made some predictions where I saw a big hurricane coming to hit Florida, but from that Gulf of Mexico side. And in terms of bringing in the politics, you guys, of course, would have seen some of the GOP debate thing. My God, wasn't that kind of crazy? But you will remember that Vivek, is it Saraswamy? Do you remember he said climate change is fake? You both your thoughts on that.
Saraswamy, yeah, it's actually Ramaswamy, but I like to call him Ramasmarmy. I think it fits him better.
Or Ramaswampy, yeah.
Ramaswampy, yeah, because he's another one of these people that, like Kari Lake, you know, they used to be Democrats, and so you think, like, what happened here? How do you go from Obama to this, or from, you know, asking questions of Al Sharpton many years ago, and looking all, you know, starry-eyed because he was in the presence of you know, some great leader, and now he's talking crazy. He's talking completely crazy. Yeah. But he has the planets. He's got, you know, good planets right now. You know, Taurus planets, at least in the tropical system. There's pretty good assistance for a period where he'll have some attention, but I don't think it's going to last.
Well, he's irritating. He talks over you all the time. I hate that. Yeah. Because I'm the one with the big mouth. You listen up to me.
I mean, he certainly projects an image of confidence, doesn't he? But what I found interesting was when he basically came out with climate change is a hoax, was how many people in the room booed. And because look, you have to be living under a rock not to realize, you know, what's going on. All of America has been sizzling like a cat on a hot tin roof, quite literally. Canada has had near continual forest fires. Europe, of course, is having its second heat storms, and then we've had the flooding and the extremes, and now we have the situation in Florida, and the hurricane season is only just getting going. So I'm thinking that as things progress, he may struggle to maintain what we would say that cocky position that he's taken up. Well, what do you see in his planets, Andre? I've not looked at his chart yet, but what's working well for him now? Why is he getting this attention?
Well, he's got Taurus energy, you know, the Jupiter is helpful. And a number of them are getting a bit of this, somewhat DeSantis, somewhat Chris Christie, but they're not solid energies. And also you have to look at these things in the context of the situation too. I look at the politics and I try to look at all the data, not just because a chart says something. Even if your chart is fabulous, you need to get people to vote for you. And I mean, Ramasmarmy, he says that 9/11 was there was a conspiracy. I mean, what kind of crazy talk is this? This is nut job speaking. So you know that it's not going to go far. It just no. Even despite the fact that this country has elected Trump, and that already should worry all of us, because if that's possible, anything is possible. But I doubt it. I really do that he goes very far.
Hogarth, I think he knows what he's doing. I think he's getting a kick out of this. Watch this. Watch these fools. Watch when I tell him this.
Yeah,
I'm going to make Elon Musk. I'm going to put Elon Musk in my administration. I mean, and then he talks to people he interviews. They'll say, "Well, you said this." No, I didn't. I never said it. Well, let's play the tape. Let's play. Shows him saying it, and it's like, wasn't me.
Yeah. For me, he's got very much that archetype of the clown and the jester and the trickster, and it's very kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of stuff. Linda, I might pull some tarot on him, but if you want to pull some tarot as well, of course, feel free. But let's see what cards we get for. So is Vivek Saraswamy, is that correct, or Ravaswamy? I can't remember.
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy. Okay.
It's actually that's a very Ramaswamy implies some kind of religious enlightenment. The Swami, and Rama is the name of God. I mean, the upside down reality.
And you heard how he made his money. He ripped people off. He took an Alzheimer's drug that failed. He bought it for $5 million from the manufacturer or the drug company, took it back out, changed the name, and resold it, making all kinds of money. And then they went through the test. Surprise, it didn't pass. Oh, well, you can't say I tried, but he faked it. It was a con.
Wow. Wow.
And that's terrible to give families with Alzheimer's patients. To
You
give
see this
them
in
hope, something.
and he has the Jupiter overload, the signature, and Jupiter on the shadow side is, that kind of arrogance when someone is presenting something bigger than what it is, the hyperbole and the exaggeration. Not to mention that he's a Leo too in the tropical system. He would be, I think he would be Cancer. Let me see. He would be in the in the Vedic system, traditional Vedic, he'd be Cancer. In tropical Leo, in the tropical system, Sun and Leo opposite Jupiter and Aquarius. The possibility of someone getting all arrogant and blowing the horn is there.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Andre, about that shadow side of Jupiter, which isn't often talked about enough. So in both systems, tropical and Vedic, Jupiter is seen as the great benefic. I call him the Santa Claus of the zodiac, and he can give incredible blessings, children, wealth, abundance. However, the shadow, just like Andre said, can be very over the top, bombastic, and overly optimistic, without view to oversight and details, which isn't really a Jupiterian and natural trait. So if a person has that a bit too strong, particularly Leos and Cancerians, actually, because in the Vedic system as well, there can be quite bombastic signs that are associated with fame, because the sun and the moon, when there's that Jupiter element there as well, it can just make someone completely over the top, can't it, Andre? Wow.
Yeah, Linda, and Putin mentioned that if Trump couldn't make it, that he would go for this guy.
So Putin has endorsed him already. Oh,
well, that's good. Okay, that I didn't hear, but that's good.
But let me tell you something, you guys. He's not going to win. He's not going to win at all.
Who, like Ramaswamy, or who?
I'll tell you who's going to win as president. It's going to be Biden.
Yeah.
But there's something that's coming up with him. A little scandal could involve a woman.
Really?
Something's going to come up, a little scandal. But the Republicans, they don't care if you pay for a prostitute or something. That doesn't matter. But there's something with a woman that helps bring him down. But he doesn't have any chance of winning.
Who was that you're referring to there, Linda?
Rama, whatever his name.
Oh, Rama. I thought you were saying Biden. I was thinking, what? Biden,
no, but I was looking at his chances in this thing, and the outcome was Biden's card.
Yeah, I mean, with the GOP debate, I don't know if you noticed, it's like, it kind of reminds me of today. I don't know if you heard this guy, the ex-governor of Georgia, Jeff Duncan. He's really against Trump, and he said, and I'm not kidding you, this is a quote. He said, Trump has the moral compass of an axe murderer. He said this on TV. And, when you watch that GOP debate, you wonder what that whole party, including the followers, are onto, clapping for a guy like Ramaswamy. He said, I'm going to pardon Trump immediately as soon as this is the first thing I'll do. No one looks at the fact that these are real charges with real evidence. No, none of that is valid. They live in their own world, and the moral compass is really off. I mean, way, way off. It sounds exaggerated to say that about Trump, but the whole movement is like that. They just scorched earth, anything goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. Yeah, I've got interesting cards for him, and in regards to these GOP candidates. I mean, they sprinkle scandal on their cornflakes. Do you know what I mean? They just bathe in the stuff. That's what they're all about. Now, if we look here, I get the card for him. Look at this to actually symbolize him. And I think, just like you were saying, Linda, he knows exactly what he's doing. Here we've got the High Priestess, which is a card very much associated with secrets, machinations, and secret agendas. Yeah. The obstacle position for him in this 5-card spread here is the 6 of Cups, which is, so the 6 of Cups is referring to childhood, nostalgia, and stuff like that. So he's very much, his ticket is trying to take people back to the past. And basically, he's like, I'm a younger version of Trump. But this can also speak to as well his what? Immaturity and his youth. Yeah.
Yeah.
However, look in the middle of the reading. We've got the judgment card. So, you know, someone's going to be blowing a gale on this guy, and we'll have to see how he progresses, because obviously his disguises are paper thin. And I think even, you know, most people are starting to see through the underwear already. What's it all about? It's all about what? The money. Yeah, here we are. We can see here the King of Pentacles. This can also represent Trump, who I nicknamed Duck L'Orange, and I think you call him Bone Spurs, don't you, Linda?
Yes.
Yeah.
But if we look at the outcome card, this is my card for America. So what I suspect is that America will be onto him. They might see him as a bit of entertainment and something, a bit of juice and sizzle for now. But whether or not he'll be taken seriously by the mainstream electorate, I doubt.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that before we move on to another
And
subject?
he'll constantly be seeking that attention. He loves it. He has to reinvent himself. He will.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Anything to add to that, Andre, before we move on to the next topic?
No, I think that's good. That you well said. Yeah.
No problem. All right, now let's talk. Now, Andre and I will be familiar with this, and many of us astrologers have been talking about this ad nauseum. I'm sure you've looked on many different channels, and we're all talking about the retrograde planets and all of this stuff. But just in case you guys are not familiar with this, basically between the 4th and the 5th of September coming up. So tonight at this time, it's the 31st of August for me. So this is happening in a few days. We're going to have up to 6 planets retrograde. 6. Yeah. And I include the outer planets as a neo-Vedic astrologer. So we have Pluto retrograde. We have Neptune retrograde now. We will also be having Uranus, which has just turned retrograde. Saturn is retrograde as well. Jupiter will turn retrograde on the 5th. And Mercury is also retrograde. So that's 6 planets retrograde, and Venus will be standing still. What's happening in the night sky is that it's almost Jupiter and Venus are doing a baton race. She goes direct, technically stationary direct. He goes retrograde literally on the same day.
Has this happened before?
This is quite a rare configuration, this one. This is quite a rare configuration. And in Vedic astrology, I'm sure, Andre, it might be similar for you, but Saturn, Mercury, and Venus and Jupiter all are connected with finance. Yeah, they deal with money. Venus deals with luxury and opulence. Mercury literally deals with currency, credit, stuff like that. Saturn deals with rules and regulations around money, and Jupiter is the optimism of the economy. So I wanted to run this by the two of you, because I learned this today and my jaw dropped. This is what I learned. So I was watching, because I watch these different channels which cover finance and stuff like that. They report on news, but it's not always seen. So anyway, the New York Federal Reserve reported earlier in August that total credit card debt in the US has surged to $1.3 trillion. 1.3 trillion.
I swear I'm going to pay it on Tuesday.
So because of Linda, I know.
So this has happened in the last 3-month period from April to June 2023, which is an increase of 45 billion or 4.6% from the previous quarter. So it marks the highest level on the Fed's data going back since 2003. And the average interest rate on those credit cards has risen to 20.63% interest on those balances. And there's increasing delinquency rates and stuff like that. So, Andre, what have you been seeing in terms of finances for you in the Western tropical?
Well, I wasn't so much focused on the retrogrades, more on the. I knew this bit of data that you presented, and it's not a bit of data; it's pretty big. Part of it is that the U.S. is by nature that way. In the system that I use, the US chart, it's got all kinds of planets in the 8th sign. So it's a planet, it's a country rather, that thrives on borrowing money and expanding through borrowed money. And they've passed this disease on, or rather the country itself, encourages people to live on plastic and live beyond their means. And we're in a cycle right now coming out of the pandemic period when interest rates have really risen because of the inflation that came about through too much money in the system. I associated that at the time when Jupiter was going through Aries, at least in the tropical system, the square to all the American Cancer planets, that tends to correlate with the Jupiter over expansion and then the inflation, which did cool off when it went into the next sign. But we're still dealing with it. And I'm not entirely sure. Maybe you can throw your insight into this. I don't know where this goes in the near term. I'm hoping that it won't be a problem until past the election, but I'm not sure. If we can avoid some kind of crash or something along those lines before we get into the campaign season, and because if something like that were to happen, it would be very damaging to the Democrats.
That's true.
I see, the Republicans are going to shut it down. They already have full intention of shutting down the government. It's not going to help them with getting rid of Jack Smith. It's not going to stop any court proceedings, but they just want to show their ass, which will work for us. Because if things start to crumble, we'll say, well, they shut it down.
Yeah, although what's that going to do if you shut the government down? If anything, it rebounds.
Oh, no, they're idiots. They're not going to have it shut for a long time.
Not too much. I mean, the only question would be, does anyone here sense that in the next year and a half, there could be a collapse on the level of what happened in 2008 when credit was right up to the roof, and then there was a collapse because the figures were so disjointed, things didn't add up. I'm not sensing that.
Listen, I'm not a stock person. I just, out of the blue, I was reading this little old lady had all this money in stock. She said, Theory, what do you think? Should I take my money out of stock? There was no rumors of a crash. And I just said, yeah, something major is getting ready to happen. I felt it right then and there. And I started warning everybody, get your money out of stock. I got my 25 cents out there. That's for sure. And sure enough, it crashed. But if you've watched any of the movies about that crash, that was the stock market not paying attention to those fake bets they did and the home thing. Remember, they were selling houses for a dime, and it was going to crash. And they even did bets on it when it would crash. So now we got a bunch of things in place. We had more in place with the banks, but the Republicans got rid of some of it.
Well, the sense what I get for me, because when I'm looking at when planets gather together, it's very symbolic, and it tends to be a portent of how energy can shift. And because there's so many what is classically termed financial planets involved, along with the Mercury retrograde, which represents currency. So that one of the colors for Mercury is green, the greenback, quite literally. So where I see the shift, I think it's more to do with this new addition to BRICS. So you may have heard me mention it before, but for those that may not be familiar, BRICS is in reference to a new economic trading area,
right? I've heard of
which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They're called the BRICS. Recently, I think it was only a few days ago, 6 new countries have been added to BRICS. We now have Argentina, Ethiopia, Iran. Can you believe it? What is it? What did I say? Ethiopia. Oh yeah. Ethiopia, Egypt, Iran, UAE, Argentina, but the real big one is Saudi Arabia, which is the 6th one. So they're going to be joining in January 2024. And if they do create a currency, or it could be the yuan, either way, they want to attach it to gold and oil. So remember, Nixon separated the dollar from the gold standard. I think it was 1971. And since then, basically, the US has been a fiat currency. So what are your thoughts on that, Lady G and Andre? Because that's what I see as the big shift.
I don't know. All of that to me strikes me as in UK terms that people in the UK would understand. It's like the second and third division teams getting together to take on the Premier. The Premier is the Premier, and it's a tough call, man. Like if you
are spicy, Andre. Well, you are spicy.
When you go against the U.S. is a $20 trillion economy. The European Union is another 20 trillion. These are big players. These are countries that they're joining together, but what do they really do? Who's going to follow them? It's a pretty big lift. Maybe the world will change, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's a big lift. Yes, it's somewhat of a threat. The other thing, by the way, is very disparate cultures. When you put in Saudi Arabia and Argentina, how are those two going to talk to each other? I mean, it's almost funny. Generally, people that are more homogenous, they get along, they figure it out. Once you think of China and Russia, they don't even like each other. They tend to be enemies. At the moment, they're together because of the U.S., defending Ukraine, but they're not natural friends. So I would find that unusual. It's a little bit like the idea that cryptocurrency will replace everything. Look what happens, right? Every so often, big crashes. You're taking your life into your hands. So I don't think the U.S. and the Western world is ready to die yet. We may eventually get in more trouble. And certainly there are serious problems, including the thing you mentioned around debt, because the whole country, the U.S. is in a lot of debt itself. The U.S. owes 31 trillion, I think. It's a ridiculous amount of money. Yeah. And they've passed the disease on to their citizens. So that's definitely not good. But, look at the situation in China. Everybody was saying China was going to be the next major empire. Now, China is looking more like Japan in the 1980s. They were due to be the next country, and yet they're in a bigger struggle. And the articles I'm reading say, how is the U.S. going to deal with China doing more poorly? Well, and then I thought to myself, well, why do we have to worry about that? Because the world is all interconnected. But it's not because they're so powerful. It's because they're having trouble. So
they're really having a lot of trouble.
A lot of trouble, yeah.
Is this reversal retrograde only about money? Is there something else that could be in there?
No, it's not only about money. I always look at retrogrades as periods when the things that are going to then come flying out in a major way when the planets go direct, they get all worked over and turned over. And like in these legal cases, now there are motions and this and that and arguments. And then when the planets go direct, because by the way, they don't last too long this way. Pluto will go direct in October. Neptune goes direct later in the year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Saturn goes direct as well. Venus will go direct in October. Mercury, of course, goes direct pretty quickly. I think there'll be one left, isn't there? I think it's Jupiter. Jupiter's the one. Jupiter goes direct in January. So by January, I think Uranus is the last one that hasn't gone direct yet. It goes direct in the new year. So there's a period there of about, 3 months? How long is it? 2 months? Even look.
It's about 2-ish months where it's almost like a horse race, Linda, between the planets jockeying, some going retrograde, some going direct and stuff like that. But just to add to your point, Andre, my perspective, maybe it's because I'm in the UK and we've been through Brexit and all this kind of stuff, which has obviously been an absolute debacle. But you make a point as well about the disparate cultures and how different they are. But what I would add is, don't you think there's also a bit of the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
Oh, sure. Yeah, true. That's true. But I would still, if my enemy is, for example, in North America, they're often dismissing the French. Yeah, but the French are still Western and they're on the team. It's not a big problem. There's a much bigger gulf between countries like Saudi Arabia with their cultural norms and countries like Argentina, South Africa. You're really mixing. You're creating quite a. I don't know. That's my feeling, that it's the kind of thing that has less of a chance. But yeah, no. I mean, what can they do? What options do they have? They have to, band together. I would say to Argentina or South Africa, you'll do better next to the US or the UK than you will next to Saudi Arabia. But that's just how I think.
Okay. So I think before we move on to the next topic, first of all, I want to say thank you, everyone, this evening for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. At the moment, we've got 2,834 of you in the house right now. So that is incredible. And we really do appreciate you guys taking out your time to watch us and hear us discuss and debate, because of course there is so much TV about right now. Also, as well, I want to let everyone know as well, if just as a thank you for this collab, if anyone is curious about Vedic astrology, I've got a little bit of a 20% discount on my consultations, which will be in the video description. There you are. You just type in Vedic there if you're curious. And of course, please don't forget to like and subscribe as well to Andre's channel and Linda G as well, just in case you're not familiar with either one and you're maybe coming from more my side. And we bring it all together in that happy family way. So maybe just to tie a bow on this, Linda, shall we pull some cards then? Taking this back to the American people in terms of this credit card debt, which does worry me, I must say. 1 trillion is not an insignificant amount. What cards do you get in terms of how the American people are feeling at this time? And I'll pull as well.
Okay, and can I ask you too something?
Sure.
I was watching the show, and the United States Constitution, they actually have the date that it went into effect. And it wasn't 1776.
I know. Yeah.
I often wondered, and it was in July. I don't remember when it was, but I often wondered, could the actual birth date for the United States be the date that the Constitution went into effect?
That is an excellent question. It's an excellent question. And it is one of these kind of slightly hot button topics between astrologers in general, because when do you decide when the birth of a nation is? However, the reason why I use and many astrologers use the Declaration of Independence chart, which is 4th of July, 1776, and many of us use 6:30 p.m. Philadelphia. The reason why that chart seems to work so well, and my concept of it, is because that's where America was actually born as a concept. Because when you think of America, as they say, is what? The great experiment, the great construct. And that's when that declaration was there. That was when really that set everything up. Because after that, of course, we had the separation from the UK, the Civil War and the kings, the King of France against the King of England and all of that stuff. And I find it works very well. But Andre, what are your thoughts on that?
I use... And I guess there are different astrologers use different charts. I use the Sibley chart, which is earlier. It's 5:10 p.m. Mm-hmm. And the reason I use it is a number of times there have been transits that were so eye-popping that I thought it's the best chart. And I'm pretty sure that it's in the neighborhood no matter what, because in the system I use in the progressions, I was really struck by the period just before the 2020 election. There was this moon progression change. I mean, think about a country 247 years old. That's a really far into the future progression. And yet the moon changed signs just as Biden defeated Trump, even though he says that he didn't lose. But that's, he'll always say that. So in that, I always see Aquarius as a people sign. It's a more democratic sign than Capricorn. In fact, if you look back in the tropical signs, if you look back all the way back to the Civil War, the post-Civil War period, whenever Saturn transits through Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, you always get progressive administrations. Those signs tend to promote, the people rather than this idea that a fascist or a faction or a minority can take over the country. So that's what I use. But even if you use 6:30, that moon change would still be pretty similar as an example, of that. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. And both systems. What do you have, Linda? Sorry.
I looked at the charge cards. And it's not going to cause a collapse, but people will have to reorganize their finances. They are actually going to blame the credit card companies because the new administration will say, you guys were too busy pushing these people into using these cards and you're overcharging on interest rate. You're making fat. So there's going to be something a plan that worked before. So I don't know what that's about. Some sort of plan about how they're going to handle. Some people are actually addicted. They can't stop themselves.
Oh, Linda, we got the same card.
There you go.
Yeah. Mine
might not be even till next September, but I see them coming up with a plan, but they're going to make the credit card companies more responsible.
Yeah. That might be, that sounds like an Elizabeth Warren initiative. Because I remember when Elizabeth Warren was the consumer person back in the Obama years, and I remember that you would read a credit card statement and it would say, "You owe this much. If you pay the minimum, it'll take you 46 years to pay it off." It was just, to show you this is pay your debt off, because people are living in a dream world and they don't realize what they're getting into, and then. And the sad part is that these companies want you to not pay. If everyone paid at the end of the month, they would not make any money. They need you to be irresponsible and pay the interest, which is, they don't charge the same as a mortgage. They charge, 3 times that.
Yeah.
Yeah, way more. So it's up to everyone.
You just pay on the interest rate. And then if you file for bankruptcy, I have 2 friends that had to file for bankruptcy, and it's within 6 months they're getting offers for more credit cards.
Yeah, wow. What is it like in the UK? What is your experience?
Good question. Do we have issues around credit card debt and stuff like that? Yes, of course. Almost all contemporary Western developed cultures will have a lot of people using credit, but it's certainly not to maybe that extent. We do have issues though with food banks and stuff like that in the UK, and energy prices. And the cards that I've got in regards to the US people, the US citizens and their credit card debt are quite dramatic, but I do tend to get quite dramatic cards. Obviously, one card is the same as Linda, but what I get here is, look, the Ace of Swords. So basically, look, the moment of truth has arrived here. Yeah, this for me in many ways is the reality check. Yeah, once it starts hitting 1 trillion of personal debt on plastic, like Andre was saying, there are issues. Look at the next card in the obstacle position. You can tell Spirit's really listening in. 3 of Swords. Here you can see this is heartbreak. People are devastated that they're having to apply for so much credit. People are using credit to buy food. They're starting to rob stores and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, you guys have just seen, it's just some of the cray out there. In the middle, I think this is really talking about what Linda and Andre are both talking about. There is almost this addiction to credit. This, for me, in many ways, I think actually the devil here is really talking about these credit card companies. First of all, if there's $1 trillion of debt and that is being charged at 20% interest, you can imagine the coin that these guys are raking in. I mean, they are just drowning in dollars. I mean, they're just probably they're making bunk beds out of it, sofas, settees, mattresses. So I think this is also part of the way there is that element of the culture which is encouraging everyone to live beyond their means. Let's not forget that the 2 people are yoked here. But the yoking is loose. They can actually get away, but they feel codependent. They feel attached. A lot of people feel naked without their credit cards and want to dream of leaving the house. And trust me, when I went to America one of the first times, and when I saw people open their wallets, and they open their wallet and it's like brrr, it's like dum 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 dum. Everyone's got like 12 credit cards. Like the wallet is like fat, like a mobile phone. So I think this is talking about that literal addiction to credit. Buy now, pay later. It just piles up.
And listen, when it was 0 interest, they still made buck. They were getting money for free.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the next card, whoops, which is, turn it backwards. This card really does illustrate the attitude of the credit companies, because this is what, an abuse of power. So now they've got everyone addicted to credit. What? They're just abusing it, and they just put the amounts up and up.
Yeah.
And it's causing a lot of heartache for people. So here we see the Three of Cups, but luckily there are 2 cups left. So I think America's going to have to try and find a way to wean itself off of debt. But I think it's going to take legislation to kind of liberate people.
Right now they have those people in the back of the congressmen that are getting paid by the credit card places.
Wow.
What'll happen is the new administration and the uproar by people, and they'll say you can't do this anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a thing though that in the U.S. the GOP is famous for resisting anything that takes power away from banks, and the whole idea, for instance, those loans that are given to people at really high interest rates. There's always some GOP backing to that, and whenever you try to introduce protection for ordinary people, they fight it. They don't like it. It's like literally, in a certain way, we're living through another crisis where, if you think back to the Civil War, it was the idea of enslaving people, and the GOP likes to enslave people.
Yeah.
That's what they like.
Yeah.
They need to admit it to themselves. They want an upper class controlling everybody else.
Right.
That's the game. Whatever it is behind it, there's that. We'll give you a little bit, then we'll force you to pay. You become a slave if you've got a huge debt. What are you going to do now?
Yeah.
You get up in the morning and you go to sleep at night wondering how you'll pay off your student loans or your credit card. And in a lot of ways, why is someone given so much opportunity to build up such a high debt? That's what happened with the housing crisis. People were being given loans that were completely crazy. They shouldn't have been given those loans. No.
Well, do you know what, Andre? I am so glad that you said that and you used those words specifically, because guess what? I came to the same conclusion as well. Let me just do a quick lift up here, and we're going to look at the USA chart here. Let me just turn, I don't know. You may not be able to see this, but anyway, let me get the wand out. Now, there is in the USA chart, here's transiting Pluto. My little transiting Pluto is with Pluto, yeah? So the USA is having the Pluto return. What's Pluto all about? God of the underworld, Hades, debt, manipulation, people trafficking, the whole shebang, yeah? But it's also with K2, the south node of the moon. Now, the nodes of the moon can create extremes. When they're with planets, they can basically exaggerate what that planet is about. Pluto already acts like a steroid. Now, the most important thing here is, in this Declaration of Independence chart, the ascendant is Sagittarius, which means that this Pluto return is happening in Capricorn. Andre, you might have it a bit different, but I think it's still the second house. Now, the second house deals with values, it deals with education, and it also deals with money and finance. Pluto, the shadow of Pluto can literally deal with slavery. K2 would intensify that. Now, obviously, without raking over the historical coals, but that for me really does back up exactly what Andre was saying, which is, what is the modern form of slavery now that is affecting pretty much everyone? It's debt. Yeah. And remember how, Linda, how we got the devil card, whether we're in chains. So for me, there is that element, among others, that really is present in the USA chart. So thanks for saying that, Andre.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. You can thank me, but it's a scary thought.
Yes.
I wish it were better. Like, quite honestly, I don't understand why people do this, because I've always had a really hard time not paying my monthly bill, because I know that it costs me money. Why would I want to give them extra money? I mean, thank you for letting me borrow it, but once in a blue moon, I've extended it a bit. But I don't like the idea of carrying interest like that, because it's, by the way,
my father, he paid off as soon as he got the bill.
Say that again.
That was my father. He paid it as soon as he got the bill.
Yeah, because like I don't know. I don't think it's the same in the UK, but in the US, if you have a mortgage, you can deduct your interest in your taxes. So that's pretty good. You get a break on the interest, but not on your credit card interest.
No,
That's up to you.
And you used to be able to take it off.
Is that right? Yeah, but that's too
ago.
heavy a hit on the U.S. purse, so they won't let you do it for long. Yeah,
right. But my dad would pay it off, and then what would happen is cards would cancel them because they weren't making any money off of him.
Yeah, they like you to. Well, thing is, they get a card if you just use it. They'll get a percentage in any case. But yeah, the real money, they depend on you being ignorant and irresponsible. Otherwise, if everyone all of a sudden started paying off their card, the model would crash. Because they need those returns for the shareholders and so forth. So they need people to be either irresponsible or just strapped for money. They don't have enough money, so then they use their credit card to carry them over.
Absolutely.
Say to pay for a medical bill or something along those lines. That can also.
Can I thank the donation people real quick? Robin, thank you. Have courage, be kind. Thank you for your donation. And Jenny.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, fascinating topic. So I think we can cover two more topics. I think one.
Can I ask one? Can I ask?
Sure, of course.
Can I ask about the elephant in the room?
Which is?
Mitch McConnell froze again today.
Did he?
Yes, but it was, my sister counted it. It was 30 seconds long, longer than the first one.
Okay, that one I have the answer for.
And he was talking, and he just went totally froze.
That's in the astrology that I do. That's the classic where you can just gaze at a chart, and the more, especially as a person ages, and if they show some health issue, Saturn, he's a very, very early Pisces, and Saturn in March goes there. He has the first event, and now until Saturn gets beyond those degrees, which doesn't happen until next year, he's exposed to problems. And the problem with these people is that they're so into what they do, they're so committed, he probably isn't resting enough, and so he's bringing in the chance of it.
He might have a total stroke.
Yeah.
It could be coming by September. Look at this. He's not right. He's not right. But my sister, she's intuitive, but she doesn't announce it or say anything. And you can't ask her a question. She has to pick it up. And when she said it lasted 30 seconds, she said, Linda, he doesn't have much longer.
Yeah, that's my instinct as well. I'm just pulling some cards for him as well. Let's have a look here. Oh, very interesting.
What?
This is really interesting. Okay. I've pulled five. Yeah, I've pulled 5 cards. 2 are major arcana. I think this is speaking a lot to his mentality. Look, obviously, we don't like to predict, the big D word here on air, but, he's looking on shaky roller skates, shall we say. I think some of the gaffer tape is starting to come off. So I've got here the Queen of Pentacles here. This is basically McConnell trying to pretend, hey, it's all good. I'm fine. I'm stable. I'm all right. Nothing to see here. I know I keep freezing up. Yeah. But he's trying to hold it all together. This is what the Queen of Pentacles is about. And the gender doesn't always necessarily apply. It's more about the energy. He's trying to present this calm as if everything is in control. However, in the obstacle position, we've got the Star card. Now, this is normally a really positive card, but when you're talking about these political vultures, they take on different connotations. But this has turned up in the obstacle position. So when it's the right way up, it's blessing. The universe has got your back. But when it's in the obstacle position or reversed, it can refer to illness, not feeling well, not feeling supported, feeling vulnerable. How interesting. Why is he still sticking around? He's in it for what? Yeah, money. Here he is, the knight. This is the Knight of Pentacles, which can sometimes also be known as the mercenary. So in many ways, Mitch McConnell does have this kind of mercenary nature. We've noticed over the years how he goes out of his way to sabotage, to undermine, and do all of this kind of nefarious stuff. When we look here again, Ace of Pentacles. So look, it's still very much about the money. This is why he's holding on, even though he's exhausted. I think he wants to try and secure GOP funding.
And that's also power. That's also power.
Power, of course. Yeah, he likes the prestige. He likes the status. Look how this guy, this card is shining with gold. It's like he's got stars in his eyes. However, look at the outcome card. It's the World. We all know what this means in astrology: endings and beginnings, beginnings and endings. But what it means is a grand cycle in Mitch McConnell's life is coming to a close.
Yeah.
And I don't think he can carry on much longer. Yeah. Okay, we've got over 3,214 people in the house. This is astonishing. Thank you guys so much. Shall we do, the time has gone so quick. I think many people are asking the questions about COVID, or I say Monsieur COVID, because you know you have to be careful on YouTube. So let's do a little bit on that, and then we've got to finish up on Duck Larange, aka Burns, aka Donald Trump. So
everybody's always in the mood for a little Duck Larange.
Duck Larange, Duck Larange, ooh, na, na, na. He just cracks me. Anyway, I've sabotaged that song. So a lot of people are a bit concerned about a COVID potential resurgence. Joe Biden has just announced that he's going to create funding for a new vaccine. Now, in the Vedic astrology, just to give a sixpence worth here, you might find this interesting, Andre. When Mars goes through sidereal Virgo, where he is now, he went there on the 18th of August, 2023. Obviously, Western astrology is ahead, so it will now be in Libra. But it's said there can be issues to do with disease and news around disease, cures, and all of this different kind of thing. Florida, as we've seen, from what I can remember off the top of my head, has got dengue fever. It's got what is the one that you get from mosquitoes? It's just gone out of my head.
Malaria.
Malaria and leprosy.
Wow. Florida.
I mean,
Florida's in the middle of everything. Florida is, I swear to God, all things happen in Florida.
Yeah, they're the epicenter of suffering right now. Bless them.
Don't give up on Florida, though. Their day will come when they get rid of all that and come back to that beautiful spot. You know, it's a beautiful state.
Oh, it is. It is. It's just that with Florida, you know, whenever you're seeing, if I turn on the TV and I see a crime show, some racket that someone is running, they go straight to Florida. That's the place. The racketeering state.
It's the warm weather, Andre. You know, people can stay out at night later. Yeah, they can stay out into the small hours.
Well, also their laws. You know, if you're going to break laws, Florida is notorious for loose regulations where you know people can start crazy rackets, and it's not as dangerous, let's say, as in other states where the laws are more strict. Right? So
wow. So I thought let's do maybe just like a general read on the COVID situation. Should people be worried or not? Me personally, I'm not too worried because it is a variation on the Omicron, which of course was
spreads like wildfire, and you can get sick, but nothing like the first batch. My sister all immunized. My nephews all got sick. And I'm telling you, it spreads. I hadn't seen her, thank goodness. But it is going around. Even my HMO now says we have to wear a mask when we come in. But I was wearing a mask anyway. If I go grocery shopping or anything, you know, and then I got this big surgery coming up. I don't want to have to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Bobby. So let's look at it. Now, Andre, how would you look at that?
I think that COVID, the peak period when it was a lot more dangerous, Saturn through Aquarius, because you notice that at least in the tropical system, Saturn entered the tropical Aquarius right around when the whole world shut down, and then when it left, in fact, when it left, although I know that it's not really the end of it, Biden declared the end. It was symbolic, the end, but I thought it was interesting. It was right as Saturn entered tropical Pisces. And it is known in immunology that these viruses, they start out lethal, and then as they progress, they infect more, but they kill less, because actually it's good for them, because they can continue to live. If they're too good at killing, they'll die themselves, right?
Right.
It's a great evolutionary trait to make yourself less lethal, but more infectious. So I would say, obviously, it's better not to catch it, but I don't think it's as dangerous now as it was, especially up to about the end of 21 was when it was most, very dangerous. I actually had COVID myself in 2022, and it lasted 3 days, and I thought it was less. I've had flus that were far, far more scary than that. That to me was like a minor cold almost, sore throat, some fever, and then it passed. But I kept testing positive for another week or so.
Yeah, that's what's going on with my sister. But it's not lucky for her. She struggles. How about you? Did you ever get it? Okay.
Yeah, I got a couple of slaps from Monsieur COVID, and I'm still here. So yeah, I mean, it was remarkable because I did literally lots of blood tests and all that kind of stuff. So I went to, you may have heard of there's this Harvey, they're called the Harvey Medical Clinic, quite well famous. So yeah, and I went and got my, I had a really strong immune response. So I had a lot of immunity and stuff like that for, I think it's still there, but for a long time. So I took my couple of slaps, and I'm here and I'm all good and alive. And it's very interesting. I'll just quickly show my cards, and then we'll finish up with Duck Larange. So here we've got the Knight of Wands here. So look, this is it showing its speed. Yeah, it's coming in, it's sweeping in, moving at pace. We've got people that are in a little bit of a tiz-was here, in the Five of Wands here, conflicted about what's the best approach, which way are we going to do. So people are going to be coming up with different arguments and methodologies. Someone's going to stand up at some point, Page of Wands, and make an official announcement to try and calm everybody down. It may progress a little bit faster across the country, because this is literally one of the fastest cards of the deck. But really, it is about choices, yeah? Some people will think it's fake. Some people will think it's real. Many people will basically essentially make their own choice when it comes to how they handle it. But either way, it's not going to be, it can't literally be as deadly as the earlier ones, because they've been made extinct. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, they're not going to shut down everything. They're going to suggest masks.
Yeah.
And they're not going to make you wear a mask, but then you'll get it. But if you choose that, that's your choice.
Indeed. And all those cards were very quick. Did you see how fast they were? So it didn't show.
When we were talking, I saw October through November, maybe even getting a little bit more like wildfire, and then it calms down.
Yeah, and then it will calm down. Right. Only a few minutes left. The time has gone so quickly. So come on, we need to talk about Duck Larange. Yes, Mr. Bone Spurs. I mean, what spectacle. They really will write about this, assuming that there's still people around to write down the history, but people really will talk about these times. We are living
there's going to be made for TV movies and books.
There'll be an opera. There'll be an opera and a musical. I guarantee you. Who's going to play Ivanka? Linda, do you want to play Ivanka?
Oh, God, no. Okay.
That's funny. That's funny.
So, as we know, it's all piling up, isn't it? All of the indictments, everything is happening. I made a prediction actually a couple of years ago now using Verdic, where his dasher sequence changed. That's when certain planets are in control of a person's life. And the date I used was October 22nd, 2023.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll show you here.
Andre said October 2. There was a date he said. Yeah.
There it is right there. And we've seen what's happened. Everything has been brought forward. So What are your thoughts on this whole situation? And then maybe we can pull some cards. Andre,
what
how
do
do
you
you see things going?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he's downtrending. I had said last year that it would be this year, mostly because of the Saturn switch to square. And I noticed that when this type of individual, or really any person, whatever you're doing in the Saturn cycle, about 7 to 8 years later, when it squares, will confront you with your actions. So he's running into what he was doing when he was coming down the escalator. There are a couple of cycles, the Venus return of that, the Saturn square, and then in the tropical system, I had mentioned August because August is a major ascendant change. Having been in one ascendant for 35 years since 1985, it switches to a very unfavorable ascendant for him based on what is happening to him. So I don't see things getting better. I see them getting worse. And you can just read the news, look at the news. What they're doing is really remarkable. All of them across the board are playing the only card they have. Speaking of cards, the only card they have is to say publicly that it's all bogus, hoping that Trump will be reelected. But that's a tall order because he doesn't have the numbers with the overall electorate. He has the numbers for the base. But when it comes to convincing women, independents, people of sound mind and body, it's a tough.
Hogarth Andre had said when I first met him and he was talking to us, he had said there was something aspect that in his chart. What happened was he could get away with everything. Isn't that so true? He got away with lying and cheating and not paying people and so what? And he really got really into it. And then Andre said, and then the change, I think it was just what you were saying. And then all of a sudden he can't get away with it anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's a I guess a bit of a karmic thing. Yeah, that's the best summary.
And his health isn't good either.
Yeah, that's another thing. There are serious threats. I remember I spoke with an astrologer a while back, and he was quite worried about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in 2024. But then I looked at that a little more closely. It was actually a person on my channel who made a comment, and I thought, yeah, this is correct. I didn't look closely enough. That conjunction is actually very threatening to his health, the angle that it makes. And it's not the only thing. There are other patterns in there formed by Neptune and Pluto that are really threatening to his health. And I can't imagine that being indicted 4 times and 91 felony counts is going to help anyone feel better about themselves. So, he talks a lot, but I'm sure he's quite worried at this stage.
Yes.
About his, It's too bad that I keep hoping Linda will change her mind and see him in prison, but Linda never sees him in prison.
I never see him in prison.
Yeah.
Not in a jail cell.
Sorry?
Yeah. I don't know. I was going to say, no, I agree with Linda as well. I mean, it's with Trump. He is such an unusual character. He's got Uranus, the planet of sudden shocks and surprises and all this stuff in the 10th house. So when that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction comes together in 2024, anything could happen. And he's got very interesting cards. Let's just put it this way. Here he is juggling money. Look, 2 of Pentacles. He's always on a grift, yeah? Always on a grift. Look at the obstacle position, the 4 of Wands, which is what? The White House. Literally, because of his grifting and his machinations, that is now turning up in the obstacle position. So the more he schemes, the more it is a block to him. However, it's all about the money. He's still going to be earning money on the way down. Listen, the kind of blue steel, do you remember that whatever face that he did? I think he managed to raise $7 million off that. So there he is, still raking in the cash. More money. He's trying to figure out how to, go forward with his investments. How can he keep on grifting? Then he gets the 6 of Wands, which can be known as a victory card. But this is very interesting. What this really says is we see really the reason why Trump is holding on. It's about the grift. I've often said his gift is grift. The more money he makes, the more he feels he has a chance of winning. Yeah, he just wants to extend it out and extend it out. However, the Lovers card turns up, so critical choices are to be made. Queen of Cups, more secrets are likely to come out. He's going to come out swinging. Ace of Clubs here, and again, it is about the money. So what I really think Trump is trying to do is secure a financial legacy. I still hold out that he may take the money and run. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sterling says that too. Maybe that's why I don't see him in jail.
Yeah. I really do. Can you really see Doc Larange in the orange jumpsuit? First of all, we won't be able to tell the difference from his face and his clothing.
He cannot stand humiliation. He cannot. Let me tell you, he was going to sit in that White House. He was telling everybody, "I refuse to go." And the Secret Service and everyone said, "Well, sir, if you don't go, we're going to have to physically remove you." And he didn't want cameras on that. So he said, "Fine, I'll leave." But he was just going to sit there.
Wow.
But listen, my cards say it's karma. This was all as prophesized. He has made us go back and look at ourselves. And he's made us pretty awake about how far people will go. Like that guy Jones, when he had all his followers killed, all these people, you think, oh, hopefully that's an isolated incident. No, you got this man who's just as evil. And his little minions who help lift him up. But this is all, like you said, I don't see him really having money down the road here. I think they're going to grab some. He might be trying to hide it. But look at this. Justice is standing right before him. And here's Biden on the outcome. So he's fortune's fate. He's fortune's fate. But he does think he's going to win.
Yeah.
That's how pompous he is.
Yeah. Because his cards, you see, the cards that he got were quite confident cards. So he just believes, as long as I can keep going, if I can just keep going, if I can keep grifting and earning, then I might make it. So I think if I were Duck Larange, not that he's listening, I'd be like, take your money and run. Yeah, because, you know, there's no future there. And with that 14th Amendment as well, Section 3, once they do that and then his grifting potential, he's at peak grift. That's what I would say. I think he's at peak grift.
Yeah.
Right. Well, can you believe it, folks? The time has gone. We've run over a little bit. It flew by. Thank you to everyone for joining us. What was it? 3,368 in the that was ridiculous. Just absolutely.
Thanks for coming, you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us. Indeed. Thank you so much.
And if should we meet? Let's get the 411. Let's see if people really like this, and then maybe Andre can do it next.
Sure. Yeah, by all means.
He's wonderful.
I don't really want to host the astrology stuff because I'm not. You guys are good at that. That's not my thing. I mean, I love it, but it's not something. You know, you have charts and all that stuff.
I know all that stuff.
All I know is Mercury is in Gatorade or something like that.
Yeah, Mercury's in Gatorade. Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah, that you just hit the nail. It's perfect. Mercury's in Gatorade.
Indeed, indeed. Well, we will have to do this again. I think it was fascinating, and I love the different experiences, the contribution, the Vedic astrology with the tropical astrology, and of course the insights as well. So if you guys like that, as Linda said, then of course we will do that again. I would love to be on your channel, Andre, and it was a pleasure collaborating with you today. Please as well, folks, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're new to the channel, of course, that really helps it. And of course, please don't forget to subscribe to Linda and Andre as well. And just a reminder. Say again?
I was just thanking everybody for coming.
Oh, indeed.
And Hogarth, you're a wonderful host. Thank you very much.
That was fun. Thank you.
Hello. I don't see a cocktail on my plate here.
Next time, and we'll meet up. And if anyone is curious about Vedic astrology, I'm currently offering, in honor of this collaboration, 20% off all my consultations. It's in the description below. Just type in Vedic. And for those that are curious as well, but please, of course, book with Andre and Linda. Well, Linda, you've kind of
no, I
retired
don't.
now, haven't you?
You can't book with me, and if anybody tries to sell you, I'll read you. This is Linda. I'll read you. It's a farce. It's a fake. I am retired from reading. Sorry, you guys.
Well, you know, you just have your panache. You have your panache. You know, you don't need to do these things anymore. So thank you again, everyone. It has been wonderful. We will do this again. And yeah, I look forward to the next collab. And I guess we will leave it there, and we'll let you know in the future when we do the next one. But bye for now, everyone, and it's been so much fun. Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Andre. Much appreciated. All right. Bye for now.